there are some degenerate wrestlers that WWE will not hire. Let's talk about that in today's Wrestling Ramble. Starting off, we have Brian Kendrick. Kendrick, of course, has worked for WWE numerous times, started early on in 2002, came back in 2005, and would once again return in 2014 as a trainer, and took part in the Cruiserweight Classic tournament, was a staple of the Cruiserweight division and of 205 Live. Then he would be a backstage producer for the company. He was scheduled for a match for NXT in December of 2021. He had announced he had resigned as a coach and would be returning to in-ring action against Harland. That match didn't take place, and January 25th of 2022, it was reported that he had requested his release and was granted it by the company 6 days later. Then he tried to make his debut for AEW. He was set to face Jon Moxley for the February 2nd episode of AEW Dynamite, but he would be pulled from that card, and this is after he had already signed with the company and AEW had released him. The reason for this release was because of an interview he did previously where he went over different conspiracy theories regarding 9/11 and Sandy Hook, but the biggest thing that got him was Holocaust denial, where he said the gas chambers were used for delousing and said that the number of Jewish people that were killed in the Holocaust was exaggerated. AEW President Tony Khan would comment at the time, "We've been made aware of abhorrent and offensive comments made in the past by Brian Kendrick. There's no room in AEW for the views expressed by Brian. We think it's best for all that Brian be pulled from tonight's card as we gather more information. We'll announce a replacement bout as soon as possible." Kendrick would address this. He worked with a charity and would even make a return to WWE but not end up signed. He had previously produced one of Bad Bunny's matches, and he was requested by Bunny himself to do so for WrestleMania 37. Kendrick is still not signed to WWE, but he has worked with WWE since these comments. Next up, we have Sexy Star, a lucha libre known for her time mainly in the Mexican promotion AAA as well as Lucha Underground. She's also taken part in boxing matches, being 5-0 in that department, and some mixed martial arts contests, being 2-1 in her professional career. Now, what she is known for is shooting on her opponent back in 2017 during a match for AAA. It says, "During the finishing sequence of the Reina de Reinas match at tonight's AAA Triple Mania, Sexy Star legitimately injured Rosemary's arm, popping it out of place during her arm bar submission. We are told Rosemary is being checked out by doctors backstage to determine the extent of the damage," Mike Johnson of PWInsider.com reported. And it says here from an article, Last Word on Sports.com, Johnson would update hours later that while the injury did occur, it would not cause any long-term effects such as loss of match time. Vampiro apparently sought down Sexy Star backstage and made her confront and apologize to Rosemary before she left the arena, but Lady Shani was also backstage waiting for Star for her actions, and things got heated. Later, she would unmask herself at a boxing event announcing that she's changing careers, but would also later on work for Shimmer Women Athletes for a brief period. And then years later, following the incident in 2019, there was a block quote posted by Cage Side Seats that says, "Sexy Star said it was time to talk about the very strong accusations made against her. She has been injured before and never cried about it or accused anyone. Wrestling is a contact sport. She doesn't think she did anything to Rosemary. There were never medical tests." After the match, Sexy Star looked for Rosemary and saw her holding her arm while standing with other workers. When someone is truly injured, they don't stand around like nothing happened. They accept medical assistance. Rosemary didn't accept any help from doctors. If Rosemary was actually injured, where are the medical documents? Sexy Star doesn't want to see any doctor's notes. She wants to see real medical records. Sexy Star also mentioned that she is still considering a lawsuit. It was unclear if against AAA or someone in particular. The incident negatively affected her wrestling career and her livelihood. Given that she seems to have no sympathy over the issue regarding shooting on her opponent and potentially hurting her, it's safe to say WWE has no interest in Sexy Star. Next up, we have Marty Scurll, who's known very well on the UK independent scene in promotions like Progress Wrestling, but he also spent some time in TNA, PWG, and Ring of Honor, as well as New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was a member of the Bullet Club, which is where he probably had his most amount of prominence in the wrestling business. In January of 2020, Scurll would sign a multi-year deal with Ring of Honor and become the head booker of the company. And then during the Speaking Out movement, which of course, as you probably know, was a movement of women and others coming forward accusing those in the pro wrestling business of sexual misconduct, among other things. And during this movement, in June of 2020, Scurll was accused of taking advantage of a 16-year-old girl. It says here from PWTorch.com, current ROH booker and wrestler Marty Scurll has been accused of sexual assault by a woman under the Twitter handle MyStickTTN, who was 16 at the time the incident took place after an IPW show in the UK in 2015. The woman who was working for IPW that weekend wrote that she didn't have a key to her hotel room, but that Scurll pressured her to go with her back to her hotel and brought her to an empty hallway. He spent a while saying to me that we should go back together. Let's go back to the hotel. Let's F. Once we got outside my room at the hotel in this empty, quiet hallway, he sat on a chair and got his penis out and told me to suck it, she said. So I did. After a little while, he found a cupboard opposite my room full of sheets. He took me in there and got me to stand up with my underwear pulled down. Remember, I'm 16 at this time. The whole time that he was getting me in a position to stick his unprotected penis inside of me, I was repeatedly saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm a virgin." She said that before Scurll had the chance to penetrate her friend arrived and told Scurll to leave. The woman also detailed a previous relationship she had while underage with IPW founder and former promoter Dan Edler, whom she alleges raped her before this incident took place. Scurll, of course, would respond to the allegations on Twitter, writing, "Although I truly believe that our encounter was consensual and the fact that the encounter was legal is almost not the point," he said. "I understand that she now views our encounter as part of a bigger problem within the wrestling community. What concerns me at this moment is that from what I have been reading, she is a fan of wrestling and was made to feel unsafe within that community," Scurll wrote. "This is not acceptable. I also understand that people have been attacking her on social media, and I implore you to please stop. She has a right to her voice, and it is our responsibility to listen." Ring of Honor would announce an investigation into the matter, and by January 4th, Ring of Honor would announce that Marty Scurll and the company have mutually decided to part ways. He's made sporadic appearances for promotions in Puerto Rico as well as Poland, but has not been seen that much in the pro wrestling world since then. It can only be assumed that WWE has no interest in bringing in Scurll for any reason. Making his name on the independent circuit in the UK, Jimmy Havoc would make his debut in 2004, wrestling for the likes of Insane Championship Wrestling, Progress Wrestling, TNA, CZW, MLW, and All Elite Wrestling. Similarly to Marty Scurll, Jimmy Havoc would be accused during the Speaking Out movement. It says here from SI.com, his former partner Rebecca Crow accused him of being physically and emotionally abusive towards her during their 3-year relationship. Crow also shared an account from a woman who wished to remain anonymous, alleging she had been raped by Havoc. AEW announced shortly after the allegations were made that Havoc would be receiving treatment and counseling in an effort to overcome the mental health and substance abuse challenges in his life, and that his status with the company would be reevaluated after he successfully completed his rehabilitation. Of course, by August 14th of 2020, after signing with AEW on February 5th, 2019, that he had been released by the company per the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer. With all that in mind, WWE probably wants nothing to do with Jimmy Havoc. Making his debut in pro wrestling in 2000, Joey Ryan would go on to be a co-founder of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla in Southern California and even made appearances for WWE. He also competed for Wrestling Society X, the NWA, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, Lucha Underground, and made a sole appearance for AEW. His career would be completely derailed during the Speaking Out movement, where he was accused by multiple women of sexual misconduct. One anonymous woman wrote, "He wouldn't leave. He started to touch my shoulders and kiss my arms. I felt paralyzed. I told him no and kept pushing him away. He didn't stop." This kept on for a while until I felt my mind zone out of what was happening. He tried to take off my pants. I told him no. I was holding onto them trying to keep them on. He still tried to take them off. Eventually, he stopped trying and just took off his. I was terrified if I was screamed or fought him, he would do something more severe or say something bad about me. He was on top of me. I wouldn't make eye contact with him. I felt like I couldn't speak. I quietly muttered that I didn't want to hurt him, her partner. He didn't stop. He grabbed my limp hand and made me grab his privates. He used my limp hand as a masturbation tool. I stared at the wall, wanting it to end. I was completely numb and felt like I couldn't move or speak. Former NXT champion Roxanne Perez said, "I assumed it was common knowledge for a 40-year-old man to not flirt with somebody underage, but obviously not. The first uncomfortable comment he made to me at a show was, 'I feel so bad for flirting with you.' I said, 'What?' He replied, 'I feel so bad for flirting with you because you were 17. I could be your dad.' And he laughed. I tried to tell myself he was just joking and awkwardly laughed it off." Ryan would of course deny these and many other claims, as he was last seen working at Disney World, which he would be fired from upon Disney learning about these allegations. It's safe to say that WWE is no longer interested in working with Joey Ryan. And those were degenerate wrestlers that WWE won't hire. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.